Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Talk of the Trinity podcast. I am Baz Barrett. With me is not Mr. Trinity himself, Will Forrest, but do not worry, he will be joining us from an undisclosed secret location, probably when he's walking his dog, later on during the course of this episode. So you will not have to wait very long to hear those dulcet tones. And speaking of dulcet tones, if you want to catch up on previous episodes of the Talk of the Trinity podcast, you can check out our YouTube channel, Talk of the Trinity, where all our previous specials, not so specials, are there for your viewing and listening pleasure. If you just prefer the audio version, you can go and check out our audio providers, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google. We're on FanHub and some other places as well. And if you want to keep up to date with all of the Villa news, you can check out our Twitter page at Talk Trinity, where we will be keeping you up to date with what's going on. We'll be seeking your views. We'll be throwing out some polls, some hot takes, some cold takes, most likely, some cold cuts. And we really do appreciate all your interaction, likes, retweets, subscribes, anything to do with that social media world. We are all over. And speaking of news to bring you just before we get to the business of this episode, reviewing and previewing upcoming Villa games, Dougie Luiz signed a new long-term deal, which, based on what was happening during the course of pre-season, seems a little bit of a surprise that we've come this far, but a very good surprise nonetheless. And it's good to see that the potential of losing a key member of the squad, if not necessarily the starting 11, but then who is a starting 11 member nowadays, because that team keeps changing. But at the very least, it does give us some negotiating power if another club still wants to come in and try and take him off our hands. And hopefully it does mean that he will be here for a few more years to come. So I know there's been talk in terms of, does that mean that the board are having a vote of confidence in Gerrard? Does Dougie Luiz know something about Gerrard? Maybe that he's staying or going. Who knows? But we will just enjoy the moment. But speaking of not enjoying the moment, that does bring us, unfortunately, to events at the City Ground on Monday night, whereby the Sky cameras rolled into town once more and saw not a very good game, really, in all honesty. Nottingham Forest won, Aston Villa won, and you've probably seen, read heard all that you want to about what happened on Monday night. So we'll keep this relatively short from my perspective. In terms of, I think that the early stats, if you're going to take away one stat from that game, it was the XG of Villa of 0.72 goals predicted to be scored by Villa against a team who are bottom of the league, conceded the second most. And for somebody who had predicted Forest to stay up and relatively comfortable in staying up, they did look very poor indeed, I've got to say. There's a lot of things going on off the field at Forest. I mean, after the game, a couple of days, I think they sacked two of the architects of their recruitment policy over the summer. And it did seem, in terms of how many is too many for players coming in, maybe 23. But they went back to basics against Villa, just worked on the shape, just worked on shutting Villa down. And they were very happy to take the point. I don't think there was really too much attacking endeavour from Nottingham Forest. Their goal from a Villa defensive perspective was terrible. Not the tallest guy in the world, Dennis, and he could have ordered a Deliveroo, and that had turned up by the time somebody would have gone and marked him from that free kick. But it was vital for Villa's momentum to get that equalising goal as quickly as we did, and a great finish from Ashley Young. It's nice to see him on the score sheet with such a fantastic finish. But unfortunately, after that, really, it did just kind of settle into the pattern that we've seen before of teams sitting deep, keeping defensively solid, putting players behind the ball, and inviting Villa to go and break them down, knowing that we probably couldn't, and we didn't. And there's a number of issues to unpick, really, and that have been there for a while, really. And I think in terms of Coutinho and Buendia, both played this game. Another shaking of the tactical dice by Gerrard. Didn't really work. Coutinho got hooked again. Jamie Carragher had some words to say about Coutinho after the game, but that it is worrying from an attacking perspective to see how impotent we do look going forward. And in terms of, we all know what Ollie Watkins brings to the team in terms of leading the line and endeavour. But if you're a team like Villa are at the moment, who concede so few chances, who create, so few chances, then you do need that proven marksman to put them away. And he's not, in all honesty, and it's a struggle for him, knowing that he's only going to get one or two chances a game and the pressure on him to put them away. And there doesn't really seem to be much of an alternative in terms of, in Gerrard's mind, of that attacking process. Ings came on with 10 minutes to go, and regular listeners of the show will know that my co-host, Mr. Trinity, has a slight soft spot for Danny Ings, which is strong and true, and made us maybe think about whether we should report it to somebody. But even if you do not love Danny Ings as much as Mr. Forrest does, the sight of him just coming on with 10 minutes to go, it's slightly heartbreaking in the sense of, what do you expect Danny Ings to do in 10 minutes on the field in a system whereby it was designed to be played around Ollie Watkins? So you just throw Ings in there, just hoping he's going to do something. And in terms of hope, that does appear to be what the system's based on Gerrard's comments after the game, in terms of him saying, I've got loads of attacking players, one of them needs to do something, to paraphrase slightly what he said. That's it. Just throw him on the field, hope one of them does something, and that's going to solve all the problems. I think we need a bit more than that in terms of a plan, an attacking plan. Cameron Archer came on 10 minutes to go. Well, maybe less than 10 minutes to go. Again, I've advocated previously, I think he should be starting. I think he needs to play longer than 10 minutes, even if you don't think he should be in the starting 11. Even in terms of, even though his header that he had from a corner probably ended up going backwards, that's probably still one of our most attacking kind of positions of the game. So we'll talk about Chelsea in a bit, as there's a bit of a situation about whether he'll be fit or not. But, if he's fit, I think there's games coming up whereby you could get him in that starting lineup, because it's not working in terms of what we are doing attacking wise at the moment. Another change of formation doesn't make much difference. I think there's, in an attacking third, there just appears to be a lack of belief, really, which is slightly worrying based on the fact that Gerrard has been in charge of the team for nearly a year. And yeah, there's been injuries to the big players, Kamara and Carlos, but Gerrard kind of appears to be trying to pass the buck in terms of saying, oh yeah, we inherited all these players, so not my fault that they're not any good. Whole point of a coach is to try and improve players, isn't it? Or it should be one of them. So I think in terms of, we touched upon it in previous episodes, not really very many players who you could say under Gerrard have actually got better, and after a year, that is worrying. And before the game, in the preview episode, I kind of said a draw would just elongate the pain, really, in terms of how often do you sack somebody after a draw? Not very often. But a draw isn't good enough against Nottingham Forest. It isn't good enough against a team who are bottom of the league and who were as poor as they were, really. So the bandwagon continues to roll on for Steven Gerrard. There's no sign from the board that they are contemplating getting rid of Gerrard, as I suppose you wouldn't expect them to come out and say it before they actually did it. But do we see a way forward for this Villa team under Gerrard in terms of Dean Smith was sacked because the board felt he wouldn't get us into Europe, really. Yeah, there was talk about a relegation battle, but maybe my bias coming into play. I think we would have done enough to stay out of the bottom three. But the board felt that that isn't what we should be going for. We shouldn't just be looking to stay in the league. We should be looking to improve, go forwards, maybe cast an envious glance at another team who plays in claret and blue, West Ham, and what they've done. But looking at the team, you got to look at the back end of last season as well. Is this team improving under Gerrard to get us into Europe? Is that where the trajectory of the team is? I think you have to say no. And it's worrying in terms of you've had the pre-season. We were kind of quite swept away in terms of thinking this is going to be our year. The giddy heights of both me and my co-host predicting us to come 8th seem a long way away, even though the one thing that could save Gerrard is the fact that the middle of the pack of the Premier League, you could throw a towel over them really in terms of quality, because a win would have put us 9th. Ridiculous based on what's been going on. But if you're looking at positives, 4 unbeaten. If you're looking at negatives, 3 of those 4 games were against teams who are probably in the bottom 5 in the league, either in terms of being actually in the bottom 5 or in terms of the quality of the performances and their relative standings in the league. So glass half empty, glass half full. Which way do you go? And a man who often goes for the glass half full approach is my co-host, Mr. Trinity, Will Forrest. So let's see how full his glass is after that game against Nottingham Forest.
So there you go. Those were the thoughts of Baz, and I'll be completely honest with you. I don't know what those thoughts are. I'm assuming they are negative. They tend to be. We are actually going to be getting some negative Baz shirts out for you and bobbleheads. Look out for those bearded bobbleheads of Baz shaking his head, going, "Oh no," like Churchill. Anyway, let's get back to the subject at hand. Aston Villa took on Nottingham Forest, and it was a battle of teams down the bottom. You didn't feel as though it was must win, but it was definitely can't lose. The lineup, not that surprising. With Bailey being injured, you expected Emi Buendia to come in. And Buendia played well. So did Coutinho. Coutinho didn't get as much joy as he would have liked, but he still did well. And it's trying to remember that as 10s, they're 2 different players. You've got Coutinho, who doesn't move around much for the ball. He tends to stay in his desired position, either central or left, behind the striker. He'll push forward as well. He'll drop a little bit. Emi Buendia, you'll see him between the centre-backs, trying to get on the ball, trying to get round, trying to create things for the team. And that's what you need. You need it from both of them, really, but knowing who's dropping and when. Ollie Watkins up front, he battles hard. But he just doesn't offer enough of a goal threat. And there will be Villa fans saying, but he scored a load in his first season, and he did. He had a great first season. But since then, he just hasn't done it. Is it because Jack Grealish isn't there anymore? Well, it's easy to keep going back to that, but you've got Philip Coutinho, you've got Emi Buendia, you've got the likes of Matty Cash and Luke Dean, who can put the ball into the box for you, create. You've got Jacob Ramsey, but he still can't score goals. We've got nobody with more than 1 goal this season. And now Ashley Young's added to the goal tally, and my days, what a strike that was. But we didn't really trouble Henderson enough. He handled everything. We should have been going full throttle straight away, and we did seem to start fast until they got their goal where Emmanuel Dennis didn't move. Now, I've seen on Twitter that it was Tyrone Mings' fault. Personally, I don't think it was. I felt it was the fault of the players who were in front of Dennis. They all dropped. Dennis stayed still. Bang, there you go, 1-0. Emi Martinez couldn't really have done anything. He didn't really have anything to do either. There was one effort from Gibbs White that went wide. There was an effort that Martinez saved. We looked strong enough at the back. Ezri Konsa is playing more like he did under Dean Smith. Tyrone Mings, with every game, is showing that he's one of our key players. Yet, he gave away the free kick. Was it harsh? As a Villa fan, I think it was harsh. As a football fan, it's a foul. You know, he did touch the ball, but he touched the ball after it went behind him. Matty Cash was trying to get forward where he couldn't. He's a good outlet. Ashley Young as well. You know, but Dougie, McGinn and JJ, they all did well enough, though I much prefer seeing McGinn on the left side of that midfield three and JJ on the right. JJ Ramsey, his drive and determination is fantastic, and if we could bottle that and give it to all the other players, we'd have a hell of a team. Because on paper, we've got a team that should be finishing definitely top 10, if not pushing top 8. Are we missing Carlos? Not really at the moment. Are we missing Kamara? Not really at the moment, because defensively, we're sorted. It's going forward. It's going forward that the problems are. We should be beating Nottingham Forest. You know, we should be going for the jugular. Okay, Gerrard tried to gamble at the end and threw more attackers on. Danny Ings didn't really get a sniff. And Cameron Archer, he looked good when he came on, and I would be inclined to give him a start if that's what you're going to do. When we made our first subs and we went for the 4-3-1-2, or so it appeared, when Coutinho came off, you sort of felt that maybe it should have been Watkins who came off for Archer. Well, no, sorry, I'm confusing myself now. When Ings was on and then Archer came on, I felt that we should have gone for the 4-3-1-2 then. It's gone a bit narrower and had Archer and Ings up front with Wendia behind. Then Donker coming on, I didn't really understand it. He didn't progress the ball forward. He kept the ball well. We didn't have many set pieces, so we couldn't see his aerial threat there. It's early days, but it seems like a bit of a nothing signing. It's another one of those cream eggs out of the sky. Callum Chambers, speaking of that, you know, where is Callum Chambers? Why isn't he playing? Yes, Conser's done well, but Chambers has got to feel a bit hard done by, really, here. But back to what I was just saying there, the forward line, we definitely need something. We either need a change of formation, or we need, pardon me, long day, or we need to put Ings or Archer up front as the lone striker and then have the creativity of Coutinho, Buendia behind him. I'd be inclined to go for a 4-2-3-1 with those guys behind Danny Ings, and then you fit JJ or Bailey into the team. Looking ahead though, Forest has been and gone. That was a draw, and we're not getting that 90 minutes back now. We've got Chelsea at home, Sunday, 1 o'clock kick-off, Villa Park, and there has to be, I imagine that most people have got a feeling of dread for Chelsea coming to town. You know, they've just beat AC Milan twice. They're finding their feet under Graham Potter. Reece James is back on form. Mason Mount seems to be doing quite well for them. And they've got a striker in Aubameyang who you would imagine will get them goals, more than Lukaku did last season. And with Raheem Sterling joining them, I think he's one of the bargains of the season. For the price that they paid, he is one of the bargains of the season. Now, you look at Chelsea on paper and they've got a stronger team than us. Potter has gone back to putting Arrizabalaga in goal. He's got Cucurella playing out wide for them. He's got Reece James, as we say, on form. He's played a back four a few times. You can see him adapting and playing a back five where he needs to. Whether he would against us, I don't know. I'd be surprised if he felt he needed to play a back five against us, to be completely honest with you. He's a great coach, and he's always set up before at Brighton to frustrate the opposition. Does he need to do that now with Chelsea? Can he play a new way with the calibre of players that he's got? And that's no disrespect to Brighton. Brighton have been doing fantastically the last couple of seasons, and we've obviously got a couple of mates over there, Joe, just Joe, who we got a lot of time for. Now, Chelsea coming into town on the back of the results that they've had, I do worry. I do feel as though the wrong result against Chelsea, and I don't mean losing, I mean getting battered, will be the end of Gerrard. And Gerrard, as you know, was my choice. I always felt that he could be good with enough time, with the right people around him, and I wanted him to do well. The problem is Gerrard seems to be making the same mistakes in regards to not really having a brand of football, not having that identity, not getting wins, not being positive enough at times. It's a slow build-up, and that's with the players that we've got. That's not going to help. We need to be quicker. We need to be dynamic. We're a counter-attacking team at our best. I fear for his job. I don't think I would be disappointed if he got sacked, and I hate to say that. I support the club, not the team, not just the manager. I'd have hoped for better from him, but that regrettably doesn't seem like it's going to happen. You never know. He may get a win at the weekend, and that sets us off on a catalyst of wins against Fulham, against Brentford, beating United twice. It'd be beautiful, wouldn't it? But realistically speaking, I think that Chelsea are going to get the better of us. And I say that, and I hesitate. And the reason I hesitate is that Gerrard seems to pull results out of the bag when he needs to. You think about Man City, a heavy defeat there would have probably signalled the end. We drew. Playing Southampton, losing to them would not have been good for him. We won. Not the greatest performances, in terms of attraction and quality, but we got 4 points there. He's done it before. He's done it last season when he's needed to. But all in all, results have not been good. And you've got to think that NSWE are going to realise that soon enough, especially where they want to be and the investments they're putting in. Who would come to Villa if Gerrard goes? That's a subject for if and when it happens. It's something that we won't know or have a real clear indication of until that happens. I don't think it happens after Chelsea. I think Chelsea will beat us. I think they'll beat us 2-0. I can see us. I'm contradicting myself all the time. I can see us scoring because it's Arrizabalaga, but I also don't see us scoring because we couldn't score past Melier at Leeds, and he likes letting goals in, as we know. So I'm going to go for 2-0 Chelsea. I'm going to go for Sterling and Aubameyang to get the goals against us. I think we stick with the 4-3-3 and we go with the Coutinho and Buendia. But I imagine that this is the type of game where they'll run down cul-de-sacs. You've got to try to nullify Chelsea, getting a draw against them would be a huge and good result, really. If you go to win, you're probably going to cause problems for yourself. Though we could win with counter attacks, play for the draw, get the counter attacks. Though for me, I'm afraid it's a 2-0 to them. And whilst you're probably glad to see that my indecisiveness has come to an end, because I'm about to pass you over to Barrett, it means I don't get to say cheers, Tar. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Villa till I die. He's a bit of a closet Chelsea fan, we found out this season, not just Arsenal. He's a London boy, isn't he, Baz? He's a London boy. But thank you for listening. I'll pass you over to Baz. Let's hope that he is going to be the positive one tonight.
Thanks, Will. So Chelsea come into town. The team who we can't sing about having not won the European Cup before, unfortunately. In terms of now, they've won it more than us. What a difference 10 years makes. And no, that is not why I'm wearing a blue jumper today, to switch allegiance. Whole other story in terms of my jumpers. But getting to the matter in hand and the game on Sunday afternoon, 2:00 at Villa Park. And Chelsea, new manager, Graham Potter, beginning to get themselves into quite a good run of form. European performances, picking up a good win away at AC Milan during the course of the week, and spare a thought for Tomori, the player sold by Chelsea. A lot of criticism for them selling him. Talks that he should be in the World Cup squad. Old boys come to town, old team comes to town. Really wanted to make that good impression, and then you get yourself sent off. Off can be the way, doesn't it? Is it the cliches in terms of trying too hard? But there will be no incentive for Chelsea not to try hard, as they are going to return to the Champions League. That's what they're aiming for in terms of their league positions. And they are, as I said, picking up a bit of form now under Graham Potter, beginning to get his ideas across. 4 games won on the bounce in the league and in Europe. And looking in terms of time of recording before the Saturday fixtures, they are 4th in the Premier League. And even though they do have some injury problems or doubts ahead of the game on Sunday, Reece James heavily amongst them, they've still got some good players, haven't they? Let's be honest. It's going to be a difficult game for Villa, and you would expect Villa to approach the game in a similar fashion to how we played against Man City last month, trying to deny Chelsea space, keep it defensively tight, and look to hit them on the break. I mean, hopefully, we have more than one shot on target against Chelsea than we did against Man City. But there's going to be no expansive football played by Villa. And to be honest, the way Villa are playing in terms of attacking wise in the last few games, it's a good thing that the onus is not going to be on us to go and attack. We are going to be the team who are sitting back and inviting the opposition to break us down. And because defensively, we appear to be in a better place than we did a couple of months ago, this is the best in inverted commas situation that Villa can currently be in terms of just trying to keep it defensively tight. And you'd expect in terms of the shape similar to the one against Manchester City, that 4-3-3/4-5-1. And in terms of, I mentioned earlier, in terms of striking options, in alternative to Ollie Watkins, I'd expect Watkins to play. In all honesty, in terms of Coutinho and Buendia, only one out of the two you'd think would play. Leon Bailey, there was talk about at time of recording, they're hopeful that he will be fit for Sunday. I think he plays. If he is, hopes of trying to repeat that Manchester City goal-scoring performance accepting the fact that he has been inconsistent, shall we say, during the course of the season. But the potential is clearly there. It's just trying to get it harnessed and regularly on the Villa Park and opposition pitches as well. You'd think in terms of the midfield, probably similar three: McGinn, Ramsey, Louise, and then do you play Buendia coming off the wing perhaps, or does Gerrard play a curveball and play Watkins on the left and Ings up front, or Archer up front, depending on fitness? Say Archer, he scored against Chelsea before in the League Cup, got no fear. We'll have to see. But speaking of fear, do I fear that there is going to be a Chelsea victory on Sunday? Because it comes to result prediction time. And the short answer is yes. I think in terms of when we played Man City, there was a fear of kind of perhaps a cricket score happening, and we were pleasantly surprised in terms of how Villa played on that day and the result we got. So I don't think it's going to be a position where Chelsea run riot against us, but they are a team on a run of form. Confidence is building. They have individual players who can make the difference. Unfortunately for us, players who were previously out of form, like Mason Mount, appear to be working their way back into some sort of rhythm under Graham Potter. And the momentum is with Chelsea. And I think in terms of the crowd at Villa Park is going to play a big factor. Evidently will be behind the team at the start of the game, but how long is that going to last if Chelsea have most of the possession, have most of the ball, most of the play, which you assume that they will? Is the crowd going to stay with them? Is it going to appreciate that Chelsea are comfortably ahead of us in terms of ability, and we're just going to have to man the pumps, as it were, and stick in there? Going to be a difficult game. I can't see us getting anything out of it. I think it's going to be 2-0 Chelsea. There's no need for me to elongate my analysis of this any longer. In terms of realistically, you look at it another way. If you are hopeful of a Villa victory, if Chelsea score, which I think they will, Villa are going to have to score 2. And that's what mass fans will tell you. If you concede a goal, you got to score another one to win the game. Do I think this Villa team is going to score 2? No, I don't. Currently, I mean, if you can't score 2 against Forest, then you're not going to score 2 against Chelsea. Is my view. But I hope that I'm proved wrong, and I will be in attendance at the game at Villa Park on Sunday. Thanks to a friend of the show, Russell Homer at the Cayman Islands. So thank you very much for sorting me out a ticket for the game. But hopefully I will be dancing with delight at a Villa victory and throwing pints because of joy, not because of losing temporarily control of my functions. But a place where we do not lose temporary control of our functions is on our Twitter page at Talk Trinity, whereby we will be keeping you up to date with all the pre-match, during match, potentially, and post-match analysis, predictions, reviews. So go and check us out on there. We will be running polls, reactions, no doubt, and it will continue coming thick and fast ahead of another midweek game next week on Thursday night against Fulham. Or you can check us out on our YouTube channel at Talk of the Trinity, whereby our visual delights are there for all of you to see in terms of our past episodes, or just the audio version. If you've got that commute into the office or on the way to the game, you can check us out. Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify. We're on FanHub. We're on some other places. We're getting there, slowly but surely. But speaking of getting there, you've got there to the end of this episode. So it is just left for me to say thank you very much for listening, watching, engaging. We really do very much appreciate all of the likes, subscribes, retweets, or any way you can interact We are really happy when you do. And hopefully you are happy wherever you are watching, listening, keeping an eye on the game on Sunday against Chelsea. Thank you very much. Up the Villa.